Hello? 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, you probably need to press your microphones, keep your finger on it to make them work. Are we live? Okay. Good evening and welcome. Welcome to councillor, staff and guests in the meeting itself, and welcome to residents viewing the meeting live on YouTube. The meeting is being live streamed to YouTube in its entirety, and I'll ask you to bear that in mind as we go through the meeting. So this is Finance and Governance, Wednesday the 7th of February. I'm Councillor David Graham, the chair of this meeting. So good evening, committee. Before we get into apologies, just to remind you, this is the penultimate F&G of this council. And it'll be the last time you review any accounts, because the next set of accounts will be the full year, which will be reviewed by the next council. So this is your last chance to scrutinise a set of accounts at the three-quarter stage. Not too much changes in the final account, so it's a good indicator of where we'll end up. So that's 19 quarters in a row this committee has reviewed. So with that in mind, item 2 on the agenda is apologies and absences and any substitutions. Nikki.
Hi, yes, we have apologies from Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Harris, Councillor Legg, Councillor Dickinson and Councillor Nickinson.
Was this the general substitute? Any substitutions?
We have no substitutions.
Okay. So we're down to 7. So can I have a proposer, please, for those absences? Councillor Wortley, seconded by Councillor Wakefield. All those in favour? So, unanimous, thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Do we have any on any agenda item?
We have none pre-notified.
Thank you. Right, item 4, minutes. Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I declare a non-pecuniary interest, please, in the grants policy? I belong to multiple charities and community organisations that have previously and probably will again in the future apply for grants.
Duly noted, thank you. Item 4 is minutes of the last meeting. So that's the approval of the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 20th of December, right after Christmas. Anybody got any comments on that? So can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Wakefield, seconded by Councillor Hope. All those in favour? 7 to 0. Item 5, councillor questions. Do we have any pre-notified?
We have none pre-notified, Chair.
Okay, any questions pertaining to items that are not on the agenda? No. Okay. Item 6 is public questions. Do we have any?
No, we have no public questions this evening.
Moving along, thank you very much. Item 7, grant applications. You'll note that we've got 2 on the agenda. One's been withdrawn, so we're down to 1, and I'm going to ask Ian Milne, Deputy Town Clerk, to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. We have got one which I'd introduce Sally at the back. So if you'd like to come and just join the table, Sally, which is in respect of Home Wessex. Obviously, you have the application form there, and I would just see, Sally, we tend to ask within a couple of minutes if you just want to outline or introduce it, and then members can ask questions.
Welcome, Sally. Over to you.
Hi, right. Nice to meet you. Oh, okay. Sorry. Nice to meet you all. I'm from Homestart Wessex. We support families with children under the age of 5. We've
been around for about 28 years. So we recruit and train volunteers who are parents themselves. Then take a detailed training course with us, and then they go into the homes of families and get referred to us for help. All the families we help have a child under the age of 5, but also normally older children or multiple children. The families we help come to us, they're referred by their health visitor or nursery, GP, various different routes to our services, but they've all got, well, about 90% have mental health needs. That's the biggest problem. Most families are isolated from their communities, sort of anxiety. There could be a whole load of issues that just mean they're struggling with parenting and just need a bit of support. So we provide emotional support and practical help. So other issues could be lone parents, young parents, living in sort of unsuitable housing, domestic violence, all sorts of reasons that they just need help to get through a bit of a difficult time. So we would match each family referred with a Home Start trained volunteer who will go and help for about 6 months, visiting them weekly, building up a relationship of trust and sort of helping them with whatever they need help with, build their confidence, sort of build their self-esteem and get them reconnected to their communities. So we're new to Weymouth because there was previously another Home Start, West Dorset, which looked after some families in your community. But they closed quite suddenly in October. So since then we've been, and our catchments now coming to Weymouth. So we've had actually 4 Weymouth families referred this week already. 2 were families that were previously being supported under Home Start West Dorset. We managed to reach out and get in touch with all the volunteers that were with Home Start West Dorset, because we do want to lose these amazing volunteers. So yeah, 2 new referrals have come by health visitors that are Weymouth families this week, and like the 2 that had their support stopped quite abruptly when the other Home Start closed, all individual charities. So yeah, we're kind of stepping up to fill the gap now of where Home Start aren't no longer in Weymouth town. So we were planning funding to just kind of expand capacity and get us going really, because obviously it's now the more families we're helping, the more money we need. Yeah, I don't know if that's right sort of information.
Thank you, Sally. Yeah, the paper's there's also got a lot of information in it as well. Councillors, questions for Sally while we're here? Anyone? Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, I think it's a very good idea, but are these people who slipped under the net from Dorset Council's child services?
No, the families aren't that level of need. So we don't actually help families that have kind of child protection or to that kind of level. They're under that radar. So they're families that it's sort of the early intervention work to almost prevent them getting to the point where they need an intervention, like a social worker. So it's families that are struggling, yeah, to connect to their communities. And so yes, the work we do tries to kind of give parents the tools and build the network and help them get routines, and we do school readiness to get their children ready for school. So it's all kind of trying to get in early to prevent sort of the need spiralling.
So they have no contact with Dorset Child Services?
No, some of them might be child in need, but not child protection. They wouldn't be under, there's no duplication of Dorset Council sort of. So we're kind of filling a gap, in the voluntary sector where there's maybe not, I don't know, a level of.
What sort of groups refer those families to you? What sort of?
It's mainly health visitors.
Right.
Yeah, so who are working with parents who've got those young
So
children.
via NHS and all the health workers.
Yeah, but also nurseries, people can refer themselves, you know, you might have a male family who, you know, you think needs help, so you can reach out and contact us. So various different routes. Schools before, you know, if they've got a family, as long as they've got a child under 5, that's where we kind of, the main requirements, so we can get in and make that sort of early difference. So I think it's having a volunteer go in that families that might be a bit resistant to a statutory service, like, because we're the volunteers, the parents themselves who will be from living in Weymouth, they know the communities, they've got that like, I don't know, can we break down the barriers more than if it was like a statutory service going in? You sort of slowly build up the trust over 6 months, so it's a lot, yeah.
Okay. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Sally, for coming on this evening. Got a couple of questions.
Okay.
I'm going to start with probably the ones that are probably a little bit more difficult. And our policy around grant applications, we don't normally pay running costs, which I would class staff as a running cost. And I can see a large amount of the grant you was asking for here is to fund staff to manage the delivery of the project in Weymouth. And really, I need some reassurance of how you feel that you may get that funding going forward for us to be able to support it this time, because I wouldn't want us to pay that now, and then in sort of, you say 6 months' time, that funding's run out for that staff and then the service drops.
Yeah.
So that's one question. I don't even want to answer that one first, Chair, and I'll come back to my second ones.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're actively fundraising all the time, so, one good thing about, sort of working across West Dorset now, volunteers over here are really active, they're, really sort of passionate about Home Start and fundraising, so we kind of, I guess we're always kind of working hard to apply for funding, grants, fundraising, that sort of thing, to kind of, obviously not trying to come to you again, so it's really what we need now, is just this sort of boost to help us increase capacity. It's just been since October, kind of now, it's kind of a bit, certainly had to really kind of all ramp up. Obviously, long term, we've been going for like 28 years, and so it's a bit worrying that the other homes start closed quite suddenly, but we are all independent, and like we said, we've been going for a long time, we've got, we were, sort of quite nice relationships with people that fund us before, like kind of.
You say you are independent.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you don't receive any funding from Home Start?
UK,
Yes.
only if we apply to it. So sometimes if they've got, so we kind of pay to part of the network to help, with, like policies and learning from them, but we are totally an independent charity, how we run, how we operate. If there was a complaint system.
If you look at their website, they've got millions.
They're not who Home Start UK?
Yes.
No, I don't think, oh, really? That's it.
Look at it now.
Okay, well, we don't get funding from them unless, they, for example, sometimes get a large pot of funding, but then there's lots of homes outside the country, so we have to put in a case for them and say, can we have this funding? They might then.
I think what was at the heart of Councillor Hope's question was, we don't normally fund revenue
Yeah,
because it's going to stop at some point. What will you do with those paid volunteers once that project stops and you don't have our money again?
yeah.
How do you cope with that?
Just always forward planning, I suppose, and trying to, it's always uncertain. We start, we've always got our running costs to cover. We've got, a team of us, part-time, do the grant side of things, and we've got, fundraising. We're always trying new ways, so we're trying to do more fundraising by social media. So, sorry if I'm not.
It's all right, that's okay. I mean, your ears, like I said, you can say what you want. Councillor, do you want to come back?
Yeah, no, I think it does answer my question. I think, I'm sympathetic to the fact that Home Start Dorset is taking over a gap that's left by the previous charity, which is why there's an immediate demand to fill this need, I think, is where you're going. I think
Yeah,
you're confident as a charity that you can fulfil the requirement in 6 months' time.
yeah, definitely, yeah.
Quite another question is, when I look at those that give you funding at the moment, am I right in thinking you don't receive any funding from Dorset Council?
We do get some funding from Dorset Council.
Okay, I couldn't see that
Yeah, we've had,
in the application list of funders. So that's one, that again, that reassures me, because they are the one that have got the
yeah,
duty of care for
yeah.
young people, people want to, so.
So we get some funding, from the family, children's, I'm not sure, correct, sorry, family or children's services, which, supports a certain number of families, and then we have commission services for.
Yeah, so you're on
Right in
commission
this
list
group.
for Dorset Council.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we worked with them for many years, so they kind of, that helps vouch for us. a
Yeah,
bit.
no, it's good to hear. And my last point, Chair, is can I just say that I do support this project as one of the councillors that represent one of the most deprived wards here in Weymouth. I can guarantee that you will be supporting residents in my area. So I'd like personally to thank you and the volunteers, who do that work.
Thank you, councillor Hope. Councillor Lambert. Any question for Sally?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, the work you're doing is obviously needed and is important, so, well done to you for doing that. But, councillors, I'm a bit concerned about this one, I've got to admit, part of some of the reasons that councillor Hope mentioned. We seem to be getting incredibly close to where we're funding a DC responsibility. And, maybe someone more knowledgeable than myself needs to inform me on that, as to whether, whether this does fit within our remit in terms of giving out monies. And a specific question, I think I'm right in saying that this will be for 3 families.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about, 3,000, getting on the £3,000 for 3 families. And I can see why that sort of money is needed. I'm just unhappy about so much money going for, just a small number of beneficiaries in our area. So I'm in real trouble on this. I don't know if you can help me on that last point.
Yeah, I suppose quite, when you compare lots of other services, we are quite good value for money, because our biggest cost really is our volunteer training and the volunteer expenses. We don't have a massive team, we kind of, the cost per family works out roughly about £900 for 6 months. And that's mainly made up of some coordinated time, which is kind of assessing families, referrals that they come in, supervising volunteers, training volunteers, volunteer expense, like I said, travel, that sort of thing. But all I can say is it does make a real difference. So the 3 families would, kind of, and their children and
It's about £150 a month then, for a family.
yeah, but that's 2-3 hours a week, every week. We do always have the families coming back to us saying, you've made a good difference, you've reconnected me to my communities, and kind of, but, it's, we feel like it's a valuable service, but I feel.
Yeah, okay. I'll have a go at the sort of threshold. So in terms of families getting referred to Dorset Council for children's services or adult services, there is a threshold that needs to be reached, if you like. Income is part of that, and sort of family, all of that is taken into account from Dorset Council. If it doesn't reach that threshold, I think what Sally's referring to is that there's a whole group now that fall below that threshold line that still can't manage, or at least need help to stop getting into that category.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this charity does.
No, 100%.
So for £35 a week, so the family has to have a child
Under 5.
under 5.
But most would have more than one.
Yes.
But that's the main, because that's sort of where our focus is in those early years. The kind of getting was.
If it was 5 families, would that be the same volunteer cost? Could they do more families?
Some volunteers do.
Right, okay.
Some it depends on the volunteer, but.
So I think it's, as we are now well used to, the threshold is now so high, there's a whole subgroup of families falling below whether it's poverty or whether it's just assistance to get the children on the right track, I think is probably the answer. I can't tell you where the line is, because Dorset Council don't share that generally, but that is what we're talking about in that sort of subgroup.
Yeah.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Well, can you just come back? Are we happy that within the Weymouth Town Council requirements that this is okay? I mean, it has come forward from officers, I know that, so presumably it's been scrutinised, but I would like.
It has, I mean, on the specific issue of revenue, we have gone up to that line and overstepped it this year, actually, in a couple of times. What I would say is the definition would be that this money, this revenue cost, is for 3 specific families. So it isn't an ongoing cost, it's a revenue cost which ends. So in that respect, we're not committing ourselves to ongoing support, which is obviously in the policy. Whether it gets into the grey area of, are we stepping into a line, as Councillor Watley was saying, whether we're stepping into a line that Dorset Council should fill, I'm sort of satisfied on that point because I know where the threshold is, and I've heard this story before that families are in trouble now, but they cannot get to the minimum levels. And it isn't always about money, it's about coaching, isn't it? And preparation for, school and things like that.
Yeah,
Specifically targeted at the under 5.
yeah,
Yes.
so there are all sorts of reasons, I mean.
So I think it's a matter of conscience, Councillor Lambert, but as far as the policy is concerned, I think we're within.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my list. Councillor Wakefield.
Thank you. I'm just reading your form. So this is to benefit 3 families, and it says in your form to 11 people in total. And the total project cost is 9,500, so we're contributing a third of it. So this is almost a spend of £1,000 per person.
Well, it's roughly about a £900 family for 6 months support. So then kind of the numbers was like, if you count the parents, 2 children, the mums, because although it's got the whole family will benefit, so.
But there's the
Yeah, and then-
total project cost is 10,000.
Yeah. We're just basing it on that, based on how many sort of forecasts we think we're gonna get demand, based on like last year, I think it was 29 families, so homes that West Alls had referrals to 29 families and waiting last year, so we expecting the same, if not more, because our, in our current catchment, our demand's gone up massively, so we imagine it's gonna be more,
So
this year than last year, so that was just supporting what we sort of thought, as we get going, it's gonna be the number of families that will be.
So the cost, the cost for the 3 families, is that 2,820
Yeah.
or 9,400?
The 2,820.
Okay, that would be a larger project. So we're 100% funding this one project. You're not match funding us only on our fund.
I get that now, so I was confused about that.
It looks like we're being match funded
Oh,
2 to 1, but we're not.
Right.
So the 2,800 is for 3 families,
Yeah,
but you think there's enough, you'll need 9,000.
we're doing fundraising for, busy to kind of, because we know there's a need here, so we kind of.
Yes, got it. I don't think any of us are disputing the need.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand the value for money on this myself.
Yeah,
So we're talking here about 11 people. I see on here that Host on Wessex employs 13 staff. And I see on the website you're recruiting an operations manager at 36k.
yeah,
So you do seem to have quite a high staffing costs.
yeah, the operations manager's been recruited so that we can, the CEO can kind of focus on, because we've got this expansion and we're open charity shops, so we can become financially sufficient, or more sort of financially, like a regular income of unrestricted income,
Yeah.
because as we've got bigger grants, we've grown loads over the last 5 years, as demand's grown, we've kept growing and growing to meet the demand, until we've opened new family groups, we've been supporting more families every year. We do get some funding from Dorset Council, like I said, but in the BCP area, we get nothing, so we've always been largely grant focused, so now the plan is, we've done a lot of work about scoping up a charity shop, which we've been open before we expanded into catchment, we're going to be more Bournemouth way, but the plan is now we'd like to open a Weymouth as we move over this way. So the operations role is to come in to help support the team on the ground doing the family support work, and then enable other resources to set up the charity shop, which we've got some funding for some of the capital bits of the charity, the fitting of the charity shop already from another funder. So it's to really support the expansion, it's not,
Thank you. To me, it's just a gross, we do some grants for this kind of money that have a club with 100 members.
Yeah.
or 500
I
members. This is-
understand.
to me, this is a very large sum for a very small number of beneficiaries, is where I'm with it.
Councillor Herman.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the note with the value per person, if you want to call it like that, I think we're slightly understating it. those routines and those structures that you can help a family put in place doesn't, I think we're simplifying it down to one, you know, a single family. We're not thinking about, well, I'm just presuming we're not thinking about, but I'd like us to consider the extended family that benefit from this. I'd like to think about the schools that spend far too much time doing social work and chasing up these sorts of things that can then have a lead-on effect to more positive outcomes through the rest of the students, for example. You know, I know in our ward, in my school, the amount of time that I used to spend working with families would take away from the rest of the children. So I think we're getting too bogged down in numbers here, and I think there's a greater sense of good that comes from projects like this, you know. So I think there's good value there, especially if you think about in a snapshot, and this is probably a bit idealistic, you know, if we can change the life of a person for £1,000 or a young person in that family for the rest of their life, then, you know, and we knew we could do that, then we wouldn't be talking about this or having this discussion, because that would be extremely good value for money. Can we risk not doing that? I'm not sure. We don't, you know, have hindsight like that, but I think I like these projects. I understand why they exist, and many of my colleagues make referrals to such organisations that praise these this sort of work. So I'd like to support the application and thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Ward, last question.
I'm still a bit concerned. You say you've secured funding from other funders, but there's no amount of money. What I'm worried about is if we give this money for 6 months for 3 families, which is 11 people, you say you're going to fundraise. You know, we've all been out there trying to fundraise, rattling cans, rattling tins, doing raffles, and are you going to be able to sustain it after 6 months unless you get somebody who's going to come up with a lump sum? Because we will unfortunately be able to look at it again. I'm correcting that.
Yeah, well, I think I did what you did. I slightly misunderstood before, because the funding that's being asked for by Science tonight is for the 3 families.
Yeah,
The 11 refers to the total amount of families that they think.
the 11's of people, isn't it?
No, it's 11, is there are 11 families that you think? That's how you explained it.
Yeah, people, so yeah, it was 11,
So 3 families got 11
roughly
people.
11 people, we think, you know, was
In
having.
those 3 families?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
I'm a bit concerned, like my colleagues, that, you know, it's a bit expensive for what we can do, and whether it's sustainable.
Councillor, I'm going to draw us to a close after this.
Well, Chair, I was going to make a proposal, but if you want to draw to a close first.
Yeah, I've got 2 things to say. One is, I think, I'm going to vote for it, and the reason I'm going to vote for it is the one phrase that you used, which was the early intervention, and I know that that's Dorset Council's in children's services, that is their main focus, and it's a way of reducing spend in future years. If you get in early to stop this, and it seems to me that you're by proxy tagging on the end of that and doing some of what Dorset Council probably could do if they have the funds. So I'm sort of comfortable with that, but you know, it's a small amount of money. If you take it over 6 months, it isn't a great deal. It's you know, £150 a month, £35 a week for a family. So when you break it down, so I'm going to vote for that. My one minor piece of feedback for you is when I go on your website,
Yeah,
I know you've taken over from West Dorset, but there isn't much about Weymouth.
yeah, sorry, it's been, mental
Oh,
since
okay.
the
No,
end of
just-
October, we only found out they closed on social media,
Yes.
it's been like.
In
Apologies, but-
the months to come, if,
Yeah.
you know, because Weymouth was a major
Yeah,
combination in
definitely.
South Dorset. If there was more of a Weymouth focus,
Yeah.
particularly if you're going to open a
Yeah.
charity shop, that'd be really good.
Yeah, we will, you know, it's definitely sort of,
Yeah.
we're starting to work with different partners over here already, we'll be working with the family hubs, you know, it's sort of just coming as we get going, but, you know,
Okay.
we work partner with lots of other charities, so we're all excited about kind of, you know, the opportunity we've got, so.
You can understand our questions because obviously we're spending.
No, I can, I know,
Tax-
I hope I've answered them all right.
Okay. Councillor Ho, you have a proposal.
Yes, Chair, I'd like to make a proposal that we support the full recommended amount as per the paper.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Thurman? Okay, Commissioner, going to take a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Three.
So for being approved.
That has been approved, 4-3.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You don't, please don't stay for the rest of this meeting. You will fall asleep.
Okay.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you for
Thank you
coming.
for your time.
Thank you for explaining.
Thank you.
Okay, members. Item 8, we've got 3 officers here. So item 8 is the revised grants policy, and I'm going to ask you to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. The town clerk, unfortunately departed to Clive Field and Manjaro, have been working on the grants policy, along with, the governance working group. The report outlines the recommendations of the changes, within that, report, and the actual appendices, gives details of the forms as they are with those amendments. So, the amendments are there, Chair, and Vice Chair may want to come in with the work from the governance group.
Thank you, Deputy Town Clerk. Would you like to say up front, because you were chair of the governance group?
Very briefly, you can see these, the changes are tracked, what's being suggested to update these policies. Mainly this is members' concerns and things we've learnt over the last few years where we can perhaps streamline it. Notably, we have put in here that we would generally like applicants to come to, this is for the big grants, to attend meetings, to be here to answer a few questions. We have put in here that there shall be a maximum of 3 grants per meeting. That will be the chair could, if the chair wanted, but generally we want to try not to be here for 3 hours discussing grants on a F&G. We've also put in something in there relevant to the last part, that we may consider groups that employ people slightly differently. There might be a score against them slightly in the considerations. So they're the changes. They were discussed in the governance working group with 5 members present, I think, and happy to take any questions.
Members. Councillor Thurman.
Thank you, Chair. So thanks for the work on this. I was part of the working group as well. I'll be honest, it's not quite come out as robust as I would have liked it. I think we spent in that working group far too much time talking about individual grant cases rather than policy itself. Specifically, we talked about a matrix, a scoring matrix. It doesn't actually set out the scoring matrix in the policy, which, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, does it?
It's not in the attachments, and I had that as a question, because it was a
Yes.
key part for me, so.
Yeah, I would recommend members that we don't vote for it until we know what that matrix looks like, because, and also that, and I welcome Councillor Wigan's point on the employees, but I think we just need some better wording on that, because some people who are undertaking work for groups might be self-employed in invoicing, which wouldn't count them as an employee. So there's a little bit of wording there. But yeah, I'm not quite happy. Until I see the matrix and how that is laid out, I welcome feedback.
Councillor Wigan.
Yes, very frustratingly, because Councillor Gray and I saw a matrix about a fortnight ago, and we both said, we like that matrix, that's good, and it hasn't been attached, so you haven't seen it.
One minor change, I think.
It was, but yeah, and unfortunately, I kind of agree with you, Councillor, but I don't want to ask you to propose something that you haven't seen. And you probably, although you trust us, you would want to see it yourself. But I don't know whether we can just throw it up on screen now, or is it, do we, I mean, we're voting on the policy, not the matrix forms part of it, I know.
Yeah, I'd like to flush it out a bit more and have eyes on it, if that's appropriate, Chair. I wouldn't like to vote anything for something that just pops up tonight.
from my understanding, from my, peace of mind, the matrix was a key part of, governance of the grants policy, so it gave officers a really clear steer, and I'm disappointed it's not there. Anybody else got anything to provide? So I'm going to suggest something there.
Thank you very much, Chair. Apologies, I didn't attend the working group, I was sort of, had other engagements that evening. But I still don't think that we're handing grant policies in the right direction with this revised policy. I think it's quite intimidating for somebody that comes and asks for £2,500, or just over £500 to become here and scrutinised by, how many are on this committee? Normally 10 people. I think, you know, I just spoke to the last person outside and they said, you know, that was quite intense. And I think I don't think that the committee time should be taken up by scrutinising that over that long period of time. I still strongly believe that the application review should be done by a small subgroup.
Which is in the policy.
I do apologise then, Chair.
Inclusion of the subgroup stage to support efficient use of committee time.
I apologise, I missed that.
That was on the systems,
But I'm glad to see that made the policy then.
So the travel, the direction, if we get an application in, it normally goes to the town clerk or one of the senior leaders first. It then comes to the subgroup, who scrutinise it via email. Only then, if it passes those and the scoring metrics, does it come.
Sorry, Chair, I have just gone Control F subgroup and it's not come up. You can point me to where it is.
It's in your papers on page 4, under main grant policy. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the policy, I'm looking at it.
Sorry, I was looking at policy and that's why I didn't see it. So it should really be in the policy, that's the structure we're going to take. And
So those words don't appear in the policy?
no.
I'm just checking.
I'm glad they don't, I'll definitely see it now.
We've got all the amendments here, so.
I think it's just reach, applicants will only move on to the committee stage if all required supporting evidence has been received and passed the majority of the grant subgroup, which comprise the mayor, chair, vice chair, town clerk, responsible for this.
I don't think then we should define that group either, I think it should be appointed by the F&G group, because I think especially the mayor does become too attached to charities, but
I had a point about that. I don't remember having a discussion about the mayor during my subgroup.
the other point, Chair, I wanted to make, moving away from that, is I would really like to see these grant applications as a digital form on our website. I've been for the last 4 years asking pretty much any form like this that comes forward to committee to be a digital completion form. Because it's okay if you're an organisation like the last one's got an office that can print it, fill it in, scan it back in, email it in. A lot of small charities that are run by volunteers don't have access to printers and IT. So that's another thing I would really like to insist as part of this process is that these applications go as an editable form on our website, as all of our documents should be.
Please.
Just a point to pick up on that. That is something that's going to be in process with the website updating. It's not just the grant forms that will be updated, it'll be the mayor invite form, so that will be an electronic form because we've had this discussion. But it's not something we can just do overnight. We've got 90 tender going out now. We haven't tendered for the website itself to be done, but we have put the question out. If it's not done with the IT tender, it'll be done separately along with some other comms updates. So we know exactly what needs to be done. Not just for this one, for multiple forms, but it is a much wider project that needs to be done on the website because the website has some bugs.
That's right.
Okay, anybody else? Yes.
Members, just sort of from a process point of view, I agree, we may wish to defer this, however, we are running out of time. So one option is, as it is a living document, we could say this is an incremental improvement and we will still recommend it as it's better than what we have now, and acknowledge that it will get reviewed again, probably by the new council in the second half of this year. And then at least we have made some contribution to it. If we defer it, it's almost certainly going to die before the election, so. But my point is this better to hand the new council this version of it? Which is maybe not complete, but is better than our current document, or do we defer it and possibly not change it at all before the election?
Councillor Watling.
Could we not have the matrix sent down to us to approve the policy document as Councillor Reagan says it's better than what we've got, and then include the matrix,
I have forwarded it to you in the last 2 minutes, but
which we could then agree at the next meeting before.
I sort of tend to agree with Councillor Wakeling that this is better than the previous version.
Yeah.
I think it should go forward to full council, but on the proviso that the matrix is attached to the policy. I don't want to recommend something to full council, which we've already agreed the matrix should be in the policy. So it's obviously an omission from it. There are some further points which probably we could air at full council around the digitisation. I'm certainly not happy with the imposed, I think it's for the chair of F&G to decide who's in the subgroup, whoever that be. And I agree with you, Ryan, I don't think the mayor should be involved at all. Because there could be a leaning bias there, given the amount of charities that the mayor's involved in. Councillor Lambert.
Could we not propose an amendment now on the mayor issue in particular, which I'm not happy about? I think it's down to the chair of the F&G.
Yeah, I'll take an amendment.
I think yourself, Councillor Wakeling, are making a sound point about trying to move this forward. It is better than where we are at the moment. The new council will have to go through the pain that we've gone through on occasions, and I don't think that's particularly constructive.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chair. So on the policy point 14, I'd like to remove the point where it says applications will be moved onto the committee stage if required. If all required supporting evidence has been received and passed by a majority of the grants subgroup. I would like to just stop there and remove everything else after that, and maybe out of 14A, the subgroup will be appointed by the first finance and governance meeting following the AGM. Because I also don't agree that officers should be involved in that decision making. At the moment, officers aren't. Officers make recommendations based on the checks, and it comes here, they're not involved in the interview process of the candidate or the organisation, and they're not here making the recommendations as part of the committee debate. I think it should be that 2 members, officers do the due diligence when the form comes in, members then decide, and that subgroup can make recommendations to finance and governance.
Yeah, we're typing it as we see.
And because of that, the other amendment I'd like to remove is the requirement for any free applications to be removed in a meeting. Because the fact that the scrutiny has been done by the subgroup, it shouldn't take as long at finance and governance, so I don't see the need to put a restriction, free applications on. But Chair, if it makes you more comfortable, I'll run that as a second amendment.
I'll answer him first. Last time you spoke, you didn't have a question, so. I think the reason the 3's in there is because it isn't whether the applications are suitable, it's about the time of the F&G. Now, you could say all that time for the subgroup could be done investigating, but that still leaves, if the subgroup's 3, that still leaves 7 other members of F&G who will want to ask Sally, whoever had questions. And that, I mean, that was, there were a couple of points in there, that took 15 minutes to do. So the reason the 3's in there, I'm happy to take it out and put something in about chairman's discretion or something. That would be where I would be. The number of applications, will be at the chairman's discretion, and leave it at that. So that if there is a light agenda, we can take 5, or if they're less controversial, we can take 1.
Can I ask then, Chairman, how will you judge which ones are more urgent to come forward? Based on need, would it be back on that matrix scenario?
I think that would be part of the subgroup's discussion, how controversial it would be. Because, you know, we'll sit down and go, I mean, if I'd seen the Home Start one in a subgroup, which I haven't, but if I did, I would say that's going to take 15 to 20 minutes because there were holes in that. Some of the questions didn't help that, but I took the 11 and threw completely the wrong way, you know, and perhaps there needs to be a bit more. I would have asked those questions in that subgroup, which would have saved us some time. So I think the subgroup's job is not only to scrutinise, is to give it a smooth passage through this committee, so that we're not here at 10 to 8 still discussing, you know, whatever. Okay. Councillor Lambert.
Yeah, so I'd like to second councillor Hope's original amendment, which I think now excludes this last point.
So,
Or if you want to keep it going, can it be in a different amendment?
I will be led by the chair.
What's the 15 amendment?
yeah. So 14, the subgroup wanted, yeah. Yes, so I'm going to say that the chairman's discretion has power, so they can say yes or no at the pre-meeting. If there's 5 lined up and we think we can get 5 in, then do it.
Then I'm happy for the amendment to state the chairman's discretion as you've heard the hand proposal.
Okay. Can I make sure, Nikki, that the minutes reflect, the amendment reflects the fact that the matrix must be attached to the policy? Somewhere is that in there? Okay. So we've got an amendment by councillor Hope, seconded by councillor Lambert. Everybody clear? Yeah? Happy? Yeah. Chair of Governance, you want to speak?
Yeah, sorry, vote before the amendment brought forward. I was in line for discussion, but now,
You want to talk about the amendment?
now I'll speak on the amendment as it's the
Okay.
only way I'll get to.
No, I'll come back to you.
Oh, no, okay, I'll speak on the amendment. So it's just, is it really the amendment? No, yeah, it could be actually, yeah. So part of the applicant, the point 14 that's been amended. So are we saying that the applicants are required to attend that subgroup meeting now?
No.
Because Chair, you referenced having those questions for that person in the subgroup. How would we ask those questions and flush them out in the subgroup by your own description if they're not there?
I think if we've got serious questions, if the subgroup got serious questions, it will be for the officer handling the interaction to ask those questions back. I don't think it's right for £500 somebody to come in for a pre-meeting. I don't think it's right. No. By my understanding, that's not what I was proposing.
Okay.
Yes.
My understanding is the subgroup might just be an email chain, might not necessarily be coming in here.
So they can sort of prepare that applicant perhaps for.
Yes, so if there was 3 people in the subgroup and we had 6 questions, we pass them back to the officer, who then email the applicant and say, these are the questions you need answers to. Or we might take the choice to say, you haven't reached the threshold, or we might say, it won't be heard this month because we've already got 3 lined up in the slot. And they're sort of big applications. I can't remember many times. I think there was one meeting in my time this year where we had 5 or 6, and that's about the only time that I don't see this as a big thing.
Yeah, sorry, Joe, can I come back? Because from what I took from this was that there was about time efficiency and etc. And it doesn't feel like it's done that almost, because if those, let's say 3 come forward as they do now, they meet the requirement, they come to the meeting, we spend that much time. Sounds like that's all going to happen still, even with the subgroup.
The time efficiency though is for this committee rather than the sub, so the subgroup is taking away face time that we're all having, talking about an application to a subgroup, which will be done by email. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah. Yeah, can I answer? Can I respond? I disagree respectfully because it'll only be the subgroup that have asked those questions, and we'll get into a situation where, let's just take these three members over. If we're in the subgroup and we've asked those questions, we know them, great, but those members are entitled to know that information and access that information by questioning or whatever, so we're just gonna.
No, because the
Yeah.
answers to those, we might ask them to include that on the application form.
Okay, so then they can,
If I'd seen this application from Sure Start, I would say, well, what does, if it's three people, you know, I'd have said to them, put the weekly cost in.
yeah, okay,
And then I would say, what's the 11 mean? And that means there's 11 members of three, there's 11 family members in the three
Yeah.
family. I might have had that information in there.
sure. So can the applications then, can they change from the subgroup? to-
Yes, yeah.
Fine, yeah, I just wanted to frame that up,
Right.
so, yeah, okay,
Because that's the only way the committee's then going to see the information.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll ask the question.
that's where I was.
So that's the-
Yeah, and have we laid that in the policy or not, do, well enough? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's how I understood the policy. I mean, it's about common sense. If you've got three people and are asking 6 questions, then we want those answers included in the policy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy if you want to amend.
The amendment.
Councillor, I think Councillor Lambert was next, and then Councillor, Councillor, last time.
Chair, it does go back to my very original comment, which you said was in the paper, and now it's making more and more sense that it wasn't. I have to agree with Councillor Furman. I thought the idea of the subgroup was that they are the ones that interview the application and the person. And then they are the ones making the recommendation to F and G that that money should be awarded. The colleagues on F and G, after voting them in, as per this recommendation, should respect the views of those 4 people that made the subgroup, because they appointed them there to do that job. And they should then be able to do it. The whole idea was to streamline it, so effectively, grants policy would be one item on the agenda, A, B, and C. These 3 organisations are requesting this much. This is being reviewed and endorsed by the subgroup, who now make the recommendation to F and G. That's how I saw this being streamlined, which goes back to that original point. So now I'm slightly uncomfortable with that amendment, because I still thought the idea was the subgroup would do the interview, make the recommendation to F and G on block, F and G then approve.
That's, well, with respect, I'll come back to you on which one start, but with respect, that is not my understanding. I've been through this, I've been with this from the beginning. So, you have to be really, really clear about what the subgroup is supposed to do. The whole point of the subgroup was to stop this committee spending too much time on grants. It was not to authorise grants, because only this committee would do. What it was supposed to do was to streamline the journey of the grant to this committee. So there are examples like asking questions that would be included in the pack, but it's still a full committee. I'll come to the exception, still a full committee decision. That's my understanding of the grants policy. Now, the only exception to that would be if it doesn't reach the threshold, which is the other main function of the subgroup. And that already exists. So if a grant does not reach the hurdle, you never see it. But I do. So there's at least 25% that fall at the hurdle because they don't reach the policy. And we don't sit here discussing the ones that don't make the hurdle. We only authorise the ones that have previously been sifted through the officer protocol. All I'm trying to do is allow councillors to get in at that level, because at the moment, officers are making that decision. That's my understanding. Councillor Clarkin.
I'm sensing there's some clarity needed here. And although I did say deferring it is possibly going to not make it, I might pass some advice from the Deputy Town Clerk. We have one more F&G, which is in the pre-election period, which is followed by one full council in the pre-election period. In your view, is this an item we could improve this draft and then take it through that route despite the fact it's pre-election period?
I probably say that this item isn't necessarily politically sensitive. It's setting policies for the process, so in that respect, it could be taken in March.
I think what we should do is defer them.
Chair, we have a proposal for amendment.
Yes, okay, we'll take that.
It's got to be taken first before we can then vote it down.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so we've got,
Services one, wild cheese zero.
we have an amendment, proposed by councillor Hope, seconded by councillor Lambert. If that amendment goes through, the policy will be changed again, and then we'll go to the deferral. So, everybody clear about that? We're voting on what's on the screen, hopefully. Yeah. Okay, all those in favour? Unanimous. Okay, so back to the substantive, which is, do I have a proposal to defer this, councillor Wakeling?
Yes, I'll propose to defer it.
Okay, councillor Wakeling is proposing, councillor Watley second, all those in favour of deferral? Unanimous. So, we can get together and do those bits and then come back again to the next FNG. That would be wonderful, councillor.
Could we circulate the next draft around these 7?
Yes, to everybody, sorry, to FNG, can you circulate, including the matrix, this policy and the matrix to the committee members?
Will it go to working group, back to working group chair or?
I'm going to suggest there isn't time. I suggest if officers have taken all our feedback, do another draft, rotate, circulate it around us.
And then give your feedback on that back to,
So we'll receive what's there now, we comment on that, and
Yeah.
then there'll be another, like a redraft of
Yeah.
such, okay,
So you'll consider the amended version plus the matrix.
that's the matrix, okay. Okay,
and I will talk to the town clerk about my understanding of the subgroup. Because it's important that she's on the same page, but it is not to replace this committee. My
I
favourite,
think the policy needs to have the flow chart of
Yes.
so that
it might be that we need to put that chart.
flow chart, yeah.
But that pictures me. Okay, I'm gonna move on to item 9, which is revised standing orders, and Ian to introduce.
Just when you thought things could be a lot more exciting, Chair. Revised standing orders, which again, have been through the governance working group. The report within the agenda, sets out all of those, changes, and attached is the revised standing orders, which, incorporates those changes. And the recommendation is that they be, recommended to full council for approval with effect from May 24.
Trying to ask this, have we got any questions on the standing orders? Councillor Wakeling.
So again, the governance working group also worked through this document. Hopefully this is less controversial than the last one. As I said, the report details most of the changes. Some of them are legal recommendations. Now, we have removed references to him, the chairman, from it. And made it a chairperson, because we now live in the 21st century. So the youth council's acknowledged in it, and the youth council is now allowed to add stuff to full council's agenda in a controlled way. It's got a few bits of clarity, for example, voting on minutes, you don't have to have been to the meeting, you are voting for the acceptance of the minutes, etc. And it's also changed a bit of the delegations where it used to say the clerk everywhere announces the proper officer, and that may be Ian or Charmaine, depending on which committee you're in. And I'm happy to try and answer any questions on this one.
Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I just say, I'm really, really pleased to see that the removal is, referring everything to being a bloke with an outstanding order. It's something I actually emailed the town clerk and the chair of the governance group about on the 22nd of February, 2023. That's my only disappointment, that as simple as that has taken 12 months to get changed. But I'm pleased it's there now, and I'm pleased, that our standing orders, even the rest of the councils and the rest of now in DAPTCs still refer to the vote. I'm pleased that ours will be the correct way going forward.
Councillor Watley. No election, please.
Sorry? I didn't hear what he said.
He said he likes you.
Oh, he does. I think the governance committee looked at this, and I suggest that we go straight ahead and accept the proposal.
Are you proposing?
Otherwise, we should be here all night going through little bits
Yeah.
of changes of the handle.
Proposed by councillor Watley, seconded by councillor Wakeling.
Can I ask a question on that, Chair?
You must.
Yeah, just a quick one. Yeah, here's a question as well. Can we, when's the next time these can be changed if we were to change them? Just reference.
I don't believe there is a thing. One of the other changes I didn't mention is changing the committee sizes for the change in councillor numbers that will happen in May. So this committee will drop from 12 to 10, services drops to similar number, I think. So back to 12 again.
Environment and services.
Environmental services, yes. So yeah, planning will be 8, appeals will be 4, so it's resizing the committee. So the idea is we're going to recommend it will go to our very last full council, who will then adopt them. So when the new councillors are elected, they have a fit for size.
I'll answer the question
And they can amend them
whenever they want.
if I remember correctly, the man sat to my left, I ended them before we'd even adopted them in our first meeting.
Basically, proposed by councillor Watley, seconded by councillor Wakeling. All those in favour?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank God. Item 10 is the 19th quarter of financial reports. I'm going to ask Ian Milne to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try to keep this relatively brief. This is the report for the annual report 3 financial information. The predicted outturn hasn't materially changed from the end of quarter 2. Having said that, just 2 things to bring to members' attention. The pay award was agreed in November, and that's now been incorporated. That did generate a saving on what we had put the provision for. But offset by that, we now have details for the electricity at the beach office, which is much higher than we were anticipating. So those 2 almost left each other off. But we are working very hard. There is some queries about those bills in terms of the beach office. So the figures in there are the worst case scenario. We're hoping that they won't actually get there once our discussions have been concluded. I think one of the things for this committee that they may just want to touch on, I've included a list of items where the underspend could be allocated, and I appreciate that the underspend is allocated after the year end, but members may wish to give some steer guidance to the new council when it is elected in May.
Thank you, Ian. Committee, do you have any questions? Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm really concerned to see the overspend on the electricity at the beach office. And I'm just wondering when we might be able to see some more information on that. I can see that we're having meetings currently with also council and energy suppliers. But I'm really concerned by that because it's a building that's got solar panels, and the amount of panels we got on there should easily cover the electric for that building. I just know by the amount of panels I've got on my house in respect. So I'd really like some more information on that, and whether that comes back to services as a service, part of a service review, or back to this committee, it's one that really does concern me.
Thank you. I'll wait for them. Councillor Lambert next.
Well, I think the answer, councillor Hope, I may be wrong, is that that electricity provides for all the toilets as well. So you need an awful lot of solar panels there. That's my understanding. I may be wrong.
I think you're right. I'll come back to solar panels in a minute, so I've got a query. Councillor Harcourt.
There must be metering all this. So if those meters are there, the readings on them, maybe we've got enough deal for the rate of electricity that we use.
Can we hold those thoughts? Councillor Wakeman?
I think we're all dialing in on that one number because it's so far off budget. We have our biggest solar array in the building. The office shouldn't use a lot of power, although it is air conditioned. The toilets do heat the hand washing water, and heating water is expensive, but then for the amount of heating compared to the amount of solar panels, it should be more than enough. There's also a catering kiosk in there that has a combi oven and a coffee machine, which will use a significant amount of power. But then that is during when the sun is brightest, that's busiest, when in the evenings, that should all be off. So it doesn't quite add up. I previously asked that we should have real-time monitoring of this kind of thing. There should be, someone's desk downstairs should have a thing of it, oh, the beach office is running hot. We're using a lot of water at this site, because that monitoring is possible these days, and you should have your finger on the pulse. So I'd like us to recommend perhaps that we need to look into real-time energy monitoring.
I'll just answer one of those points, which is the kiosk electricity is accounted for separately. It's in the accounts, it's not there. So I think we've got a lot of agrees. Before I propose something, do you want to come back on the others?
Yeah, just as I said in the introduction, this information relates to the period which goes back a couple of years, and it represents a worst case scenario as the information we've got. That said, we certainly aren't accepting the information which we've got, because we have a lot of queries in respect of the usage, the rates, and before we agree that those are the final bills, there is a lot of questions which we need answering from both the council and the energy suppliers.
Yes, my concern is I've never actually ever seen any numbers as to what the solar panels are generating. I think it's been asked for before. I'd like to see it one way or the other. So can I propose on that specific point that the officers come back to this committee specifically with whatever we settle on is the bill and the reasons, and also what are we producing for those solar panels? Because that informs future investment decisions. I think it's been asked for before, and I'm not sure why it's not coming.
The simple answer to that, Chair, is the energy supplying company weren't able, for whatever reason, to give us that information, which we've been working to try and understand what the meter is and the bills are. And I appreciate, by the looks of the councillors, and they probably share the same thought process as officers have, that we've been trying to get this information from September 2020. And
Go with a different supplier.
yeah.
Just give them that.
Yeah.
But the preferential rates which we get with the laser contract should be beneficial, so we are trying to understand what the issues are.
50,000 doesn't feel like preferential treatment, but there you go. Councillor.
Chair, you're probably expecting this question tonight, but the person that's probably going to ask it isn't here. So I will probably ask it on their behalf, just for clarity, in case anyone's seeing this red mark in the papers and jumps to conclusions. And that
Let me
is,
say, is it going to be about cafes?
is it about the catering? Because you're quite right, Chair, and on behalf of, I'm sure someone will ask the question that not here, and speculations that are made by fellow members on public forums, that the catering kiosk sales, although is showing a £25,000 overspend, that means we didn't hit the target prospective budget that we were hoping to get on income, correct?
It's not an overspend, that's actually income.
Yes, so we not hit the income level that we wanted to. And it did not mean that the kiosks have cost or lost this council any money.
No, currently, I'll get my sheet here so that you're clear. So we budgeted at the start of the year for both kiosks to make profit-wise, after all, everything's been taken out, including salaries and the cost of the goods, to £37,000, 37 net profit. But because we've had a very poor year on turnover at the top line, that's going to be in circa 30. But we've lost a fair bit of income through the bad weather, but that's been counteracted by some margin improvement and also some big savings on salary. So we're managing the salary. So if you take the 30, so let's just say it's 30,000 at the year end from 2 cafes, that's more money than we would have got from leasing.
Can I just thank you, Chair, for that very clear points, because I know there's lots of speculations around this, so it's good to know that actually it's making taxpayers saving their money on precept and meaning that we can invest £30,000 into services for Weymouth people. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Can I just ask a question on the other attachment here, which is the draft funding for the underspend proposal?
Yes.
My question is, obviously this won't be answered and it will be a recommendation going forward. Quite a few of these things, everything on here is proposed authority to use, which I understand means officers can do it without going back to committee. Quite a few of these I'd actually like to go to a committee just for members to have oversight before we commit these sums.
Could you specify which
I
ones?
happily would. So I believe the top 2 elections and CFROG we've already actually agreed. The town app reserve, I would like members to have some oversight on what we're spending 10 grand on before we spend it. My worry in my work in this industry is your app gets downloaded by 500 people in the first week. The second week, 10 people log in, and by 6 months in, it's only got 2.5 users, so it's cost you £5,000 per user. So I think we want to look at that. And then the other ones further down, seafront lighting, I'd also want that to be back to member decision before the money's finally spent. So I'd like to change those 3 to a no. I mean, yes.
So that's the app, which one?
It is the app and the seafront lighting are the 2 I'd like to recommend. I don't know if any other members would like to recommend any other sums.
So specifically talking about, this is our recommendations for underspend. We're at 90,000 so far. Councillor, did you want to come in?
Just on the seafront lighting reserve, I know there was a working group that are working on that through services that have been given a clear brief. So that fund will go into whatever the paper eventually comes back through council and is agreed. So that's why it sounds as an officer recommendation, but not until that paper is completed and concluded and voted by council. So effectively, before that money is released, it will be approved by
So
council.
there's no reason we can't put no on there, because it'll have to come back through council.
So that can be part of the recommendation when that paper comes through.
Yeah, so while we're on this particular subject of funding, I was very keen for Ian to get this proposed, because it would be our last chance to hand something over to the next council. If you remember, when we started in 2019, clue and none would be where I started in terms of what we should be spending our money on. And it took us, nearly 5 years of experience to be able to say that we're pretty clear. So the election reserve, we've done for 5 years. The seafront sound system, we're going to talk about tonight. The Christmas light reserve, that's been ongoing for a few years, but I think that's as a result of Shane doing his health and safety. It's getting near the end of its life, so given that that's not to have Christmas lights, you've seen that all over the news from various towns, I would suggest that we probably need to invest in that. The app we talked about, other areas, the grant policy, we have talked about the extra 10,000 for the commissioning, which we did this year, and we've added an extra 10,000 because we've not moved the 50,000 to 60. We've not moved the 50,000 in 5 years. The asset reservicing reserves, if you've been up the Nove or to Radipole Gardens, you'll know that we need to do some serious work there, and it's not in the maintenance budget. So we've taken that as a specific. Nursery relocation, we have 2 reserves already, one for the transfer and one for putting the site back to the way it should be when we hand it back, but it clearly isn't enough money. So we're going to need more money there. And that will be updated when we know the final numbers. Seafront lighting is going through ENS, so we know. Planned maintenance reserve, now we've centralised it, Shane's dealing with that. And we've always had an HR reserve. This should be the first year where we haven't had one, so it's probably prudent to do that. So I'm going to say on that particular point of the Q3 numbers is, if any members here or any other members want to propose anything else, Ian will collect those, then it will go forward as a paper to the first council when those numbers come out. So effectively, they'll have a well-rounded list of things that they might want to invest in as a next council. That is targeted. Anybody got any points on that particular part of the accounts or any other accounts? So a couple of points from me really. One is that this would be our second best. December was our second best month for interest. So the investments that we have in interest accounts is earning us circa £9,000 a month. So it's our second best month there. We're anticipating that obviously to come down with the interest rates over the next 12 months, but that process of investing in safe accounts is again for the next council is well founded. So we'll earn 80 to 90,000 this year. We've got £2 million in those accounts, so part of that is so that obviously we'll need to keep that money from a legal point of view. We have one other point, I can't remember what it was. It's gone. Anybody else got any other queries on the accounts? It's a good set of accounts. We know where the holes are. And it rounds off 4.25 years, 4.75 years of solid accounting. I did get out the very first set of accounts we did in 2019, so I kept a paper copy, and I can tell you they don't look anything like this. They're longer. So I'm proud of Ian, I'm proud of what the way we've streamlined the process now, and us handing the back to the next council, they're in good shape in terms of reporting. So, item 10, the recommendation is that councillors agree to recommend Q3 finance report for the period ending 31st of December 2023 to full council. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Hope, seconded by Councillor Lambert. All those in favour? Unanimous, Chair? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 11, Zach, thank you for waiting, listening to this, is the Seafront PA systems, which I know you've taken through ENS. You're here to ask for money, I think, so over to you.
Hi, yes, thank you. Back in January, a paper was given to Environment and Services to look at options for the future of the Seafront PA system. So my recommendation is based on the agreement from Environment and Services, which is that we recommend from this committee to full council an allocation of £7,500 to be made from predicted underspend to allow a home-based system to be installed from the beach control office.
Members, yes, Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. As the Chair of Environment and Services Committee that have already spent a long time discussing this, I'd just like to fully endorse the recommendation. A lot of discussion was had at the committee in relation to the best way forward, and we feel that investing this relatively small amount in a PA horn system at the beach office is a good move for now. However, we've requested that officers bring back a future paper on renewing the whole Seafront PA system long-term going forward. So this will do for what we need operationally, safety-wise now, and will help our resort team make the required announcements as needed for safety matters. So I'm fully happy to recommend this to committee. The only thing I should also do, Chair, as I did at Environment Services, is just make a non-pecuniary interest as a member of a charity that hires the existing PA system along the Esplanade.
Thank you, Councillor Hope. Anybody else? Just got a couple of minor queries. Does this save us money because we won't be hiring the old PA system that we currently hire?
We would no longer have the maintenance cost of the current system, so we would save money in that regard. We would still be hiring in, PA for additional events such as the Armed Forces Remembrance Sunday.
Okay, got it. My one recommendation, which I've already sort of talked with Zach about, was I don't think 7,500 is enough because there's no contingency in there. So given the way that procurement works these days, particularly for local government, and also this is coming from an allocation of underspend, I wouldn't like to be sat here next May or June when we pay the bill saying, unfortunately, it was £9,000. So I'm going to recommend an amendment to put contingency in of 20%, which makes it £9,000. Can I get a seconder for that? Councillor Hope? Okay, so just on the amendment, can I take that as a substantial with?
You can, Chair, because there,
Okay.
there hasn't been a recommendation.
So we're going to take this, so the recommendation is that the committee recommends to full council an allocation of £9,000 be made from the predicted underspend for the resort team to install a one-based PA system from the beach control office. All those in favour? Unanimous. Great money. Thanks, Zach. Much appreciated.
Great money. Better not use any more electric.
I still want you to buy it. I still want you to buy it 7,500.
It'll be bicycle powered.
The extra money will be for installation. Was that include 7,500 includes installation, doesn't it?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12 is communication strategy, and we have Sarah and Lisa. Over to you two.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to agree a communications strategy for the council. The draft strategy is in Appendix I and sets out our approach to planning and managing our communications activities. That's from promoting the council's services, decision-making, events, successes, and other opportunities to showcase the work of the town council, including enhancing its reputation. The strategy will ensure there's a clear and consistent approach to our strategic comms, whilst helping the communications team to prioritise our work and resources to support the various work streams across the council. Opportunities to market the council over the coming year are also included in the marketing plan, which is in Appendix J, which has been developed with input from officers across the council's service areas. It's, I should say, it's a live document which is updated as and when information changes or new work streams are implemented, which need the communication support. So the recommendation is that Finance and Governance Committee agrees to recommend the adoption of the communication strategy to full council.
Thank you, Sarah. Questions? Councillor Waiton.
Thank you, Chair. I'm struggling a bit with this one. I find the KPIs are difficult. For example, one of them is our annual residence survey. Recently, we were told there were only 4 people with any comments about the toilets. Then Echo runs asked about toilets, and half the town wants to comment suddenly, which makes me wonder whether our residence survey is actually reaching. Do people just not bother filling it in because we're a council? Are we asking the wrong questions? And there's, I'm like, are we KPIing ourselves on something that has, unfortunately, I don't think has a lot of value, because when I walk down the street and ask people, the information I get is utterly different to what that annual survey tells us. So that kind of concerns me a bit. Is that a sensible KPI, given its kind of very polarizing responses? And then the other one on here, which I find slightly odd, is to increase our YouTube subscriptions by 25% a year, which sounds an awfully high target if you know how to get subscribers to the channel. But then you scroll further down and we only have 58 subscribers. And I'm just checking right now, there are 4 people watching the channel. Hi. But I appreciate, I mean, if for the 4 people that have hung on this far into this meeting, fair play, because this is not the most exciting meeting in the world. But I'm not really sure. I mean, we don't want to start doing sensational things on our YouTube channel to get people to subscribe. And so I'm just sitting there, are these KPIs actually the right things we should be measuring? is the value in us trying to get more people to follow our meeting? We provide the service, I'm very glad some people do watch it, but it's almost more to provide a historical record of what happened in our meetings that people can refer back to. But yeah, I just find, what's the value to our residents, these KPIs? Are they actually measuring what our residents want measured? Is my guess now, I'm wondering that.
Sarah?
So on the 80% resident satisfaction, that's very much an aspiration that the town clerk put forward. So as you see in the KPI, I've included the need to insert a question on resident satisfaction in this year's survey so that we can measure that more consistently. On the YouTube subscribers, the figure is fairly low at the moment, but we're only using it to live stream meetings. I think the feeling behind that was that we could perhaps put more video content on there, which would mean an investment in the comms team as well, but just expanding what the value of our YouTube account.
Lisa?
Can I just add a couple of points there? So on resident feedback survey, we had 296 responses. I don't know if that was easy to mention a lot less, but we had 296 answers. And we do need to do some work to increase that, which we've already spoken about. We will change the questions next year to make them more in line, so then they're a bit broader, but we have got quite a big response. When you ask people face-to-face questions directly who you know, they're always going to say something different to anonymous surveys, which have a much broader net, where people are answering questions in a different way and thinking of things in a different way, so they're not always really very compatible to compare like for like. So you probably will get different answers face-to-face when you ask someone to when you give them a closed survey, and it's much broader there. And just again, yeah, with the YouTube, I know it's something that's been aspiration of the council, certainly feedback we've got, where we want to expand some of the social media and some of the platforms we're using. YouTube is one of the biggest platforms in the world, so we're not accessing that as much as we can, and definitely by using it in different ways, hopefully we'll get people engaged with these meetings and ultimately time into what we actually do in terms of what you guys do, what you discuss, and bring people into that. So I think it is a platform that we do need to hack into a little bit more, rather than those 10-second clips you get on Instagram and Facebook, which don't have the same impact.
Thank you, Lisa. I've got a question for Lou, actually, which was, you mentioned the KPIs, so do you have an alternative suggestion? Because it's all right saying that the KPIs is, they are what they are, and I get the reason, the sampling, obviously, but do you have either a wording or a change of KPI that you would suggest?
Not off the top of my head. No. I will just correct, I'll refresh the screen and we now have 61 subscribers.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions, if I may. Sarah, who else is in the comms team? Just remind me, I should know, but I'll just for the purposes of the meeting.
It's myself and PBR, Communications and Marketing System.
Thank you. In the communication strategy, I didn't, and I have read it a couple of times now, I didn't see much about partners and friends or groups in terms of comms between the two, because obviously from a council point of view, we rely quite a lot on friends or groups or partner or voluntary groups. I didn't see a lot of that interaction there. Am I mistaken?
There is a section that mentions working with friends groups, and we've also just done a lot of work with community and voluntary groups. Did a presentation to them recently.
Just didn't feel weighty enough, that sort of.
Oh, I see, okay.
Because we do, I'll say you're highlighting the point I'm actually making, which is we do a lot of work. We have a community officer who does reach out to these groups. Didn't feel like it was a sort of major part of the communication strategy, and I felt it should be, because we do. It's just feedback and, you know, if you want, I'm happy to take that away. The other one, which strays into the business support plan as well, but I'm right in saying that your team sells advertising through the drums.
Yeah.
That's not in there either,
It is there as a channel.
but it's your sort of major contribution from an income generation point of view. I mean, it's been really successful this year. For me personally, Luke and I have been battling on about this for years, and it's only when your team took over that we suddenly see the income rising. Bear in mind, the first couple of years, we actually, the advertising jobs cost us money. Again, it might be mentioned in there, but even if we go digital with some of them, you still might have a role, depending on whether they didn't feel weighty enough, because it's quite an important source of income. I didn't know whether it's that with communications or the marketing bits, or indeed in business support. So perhaps you could take that away as, it needs beefing up a little bit, because it's going to be around for at least another 3 or 4 years, I think. Thank you.
Can I just start
Yeah.
something on that? Obviously, you did mention digital screens. There has been a lot of back and forth around that, because we're not actually sure if the contract we get will allow us to have any involvement with that at all. And there's also, just want to reiterate, this is communication strategy, so it's very much focused on the communication from the town council's perspective. While we do sell the advertising, and comms do very kind of look after it and do a great job of it, it doesn't directly sit under a communications skill. It's just something they've picked up, and Phoebe has done a bit on as marketing, but
I'm
it
not
does.
precious about where it is. I just
But
want
yeah.
it to be something.
I'm happy to bring it into the business of that,
Thank you.
necessarily, so it's,
Just on the digital screens, I mean, at best, we'll probably only sell 4 or 5. So we've got 10 or 12, so the rest of them, whether we give them away, decommission them, give them to friends, because I don't know. But it's certainly going to be, we're certainly going to need to sell paper advertising in the short term. And I just want to make sure the next council don't make the mistakes that I made, which was it completely passed me by in the first year, and I only picked it up when it was costing us money, and we worked hard to get it back on the agenda. And thankfully, Sarah and you have picked it up, and we're sort of happy with where it's going at the moment. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, that's absolutely fine. I'll bring it into the business, thank you.
Councillor Hope, followed by Councillor Byrne.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I think first of all, I think we have to recognise how effective and how well actually our town council does use social media compared to some other local parish councils, and even ones of this size. If you look at the content that we're putting out, and the information we're putting out, it's actually quite good in comparison to other local governments, organisations. So I think first of all, we should recognise that and applaud Sarah and her team for that. A couple of things actually though, going back into the strategy that we've got in front of us. We can't see any reference to any events that aren't council events. Now, I'm aware that our events and festivals policy does state in there that we will support and advertise events that take place on our land. That's not in this strategy, so there seems to be missing between one policy and another. So that does need to be embedded in here, so that, you know, and really, I think that communication will come from the resort team that are probably working.
Can you give us an example, Councillor Hope? Can you give me an example of something that takes place on our that we would communicate?
Any events? Well,
Like motocross and things like that.
I wasn't going to use that as an excuse, or.
No,
Yeah,
I wasn't.
motocross is a prime one. Yeah, we pay for the hire of the land as part of that. It does say that the town council will help advertise our event, and I know the carnival will have the same clause and contract, and
So set points.
So that's missing from this strategy, whether it's a piece of work that's not being picked up by comms, not communicated, because they're not aware that it's in the existing policy.
Do you want to?
But aside, I know that you do pick up and share events, but whether or not it's being communicated from other departments of the council that you need to be doing that is where I'm coming to on that.
Yeah, so what I'd say on that, we do have a weekly meeting where we discuss social media planning for the week, which includes mainly events that the council's running, but also there are events happening on our land, like you say, that we can reshare content from other organisations. So that while it may not be reflected in the strategy, it's definitely something that we're doing.
Sounds like it needs to be in there, even if it's a short couple of lines that we do support and we'll do that. It feels like it should be in there. Have you got a view, Lisa?
I don't object to it, again, it's just. Because you mentioned it's already another policy, maybe we'll refer to that policy, because we really want to do nice and clear about our communication about the council, and what we're doing on our platform.
As long as it's
But we
captured
are-
somewhere.
Yeah, we'll capture it and we'll add a bit to refer to that policy, but yeah, it's.
The other one that concerns me slightly, is within the policy, but the sort of, delivery plan is the amount of gaps that are there. And one that does concern me is, CEE, because I think this council and the CEE working group have realised the only way to actually hit net zero is encourage the rest of the community to do the good work that they already all need to do as well. At the moment, it does seem an element of work that the comms team aren't putting out as much on there around how people can be greener. And I think it's a key piece of work that's got to be done in line with the climate emergency that this council's declared. So I think we need some more emphasis within our strategy around targets and putting information out around how people can be greener to help that target. And again, community development, although you're mainly referring back to posts that we're organising events since the one that's just happened over at the council page then for the community networking event. We could be putting out a lot more community development based around ways that the community can support themselves, help themselves, and put that information out as the town council. Do you know that this weekend's national, it used to be Clean for the Queen, I don't know if it will still be that this year or not, but why doesn't your community plant 10 bulbs in green space? There's been national schemes that we can encourage our communities to do through our communications as community development. And again, I think that is missing a lot in here around. It's not something we're organising, but it's something our residents will benefit from it, and communications that we should take charge of. So yeah, CEE, climate change, and more community development. But really like the recent posts you've put out on community development, I think they're really good.
Thank you. If I could just come back on that as well, we've got community development and CE and the marketing plan.
It's blank, it's not in the strategy, really.
Yeah, but we've also introduced, we've just started a community notice board.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, I like that.
Hoping to do it on a Thursday. We got ahead of ourselves, did it on Wednesday last week, but that's specifically promoting grants that are available in the community on particular events. There's lots of the people that were at the networking event last week are going to feed into that as well, as we mentioned it there. So something that we're hoping to develop a little bit more.
But I think going back to, I know it's in the plan, there's no reference to, other than in the introduction, the work to address climate and ecology emergency. There's nowhere in the plan how you're going to do that. Nowhere in the strategy how you're going to do that.
Lisa?
I sound like a broken record here. Yeah, so as Sarah said, she has mentioned quite a bit of it in the marketing strategy, what we can do. I appreciate that we've got loads of initiatives across the UK. What we don't have in our comms team is someone who is an environmental challenge, someone who would advocate for those things or be able to do them. So what you end up doing, if you're not running events, is just then resharing other people's posts, which isn't effective. So just what that looks like, because what I don't want is putting that in there and then you say, where are the environmentally friendly stuff, this happened this week, and then Phoebe is just resharing someone else's post from someone else's charity, which is why we try to do it through the events we're doing, or through, like, they've got this week, they're running We Are Wave, which comms will advertise and very much focuses on that, but I just want some more clarity on what you expect that to look like if you want us to be saying you go out and do this and you go out and do this, because that's quite a tricky thing if we're not running events to advertise it and get out. Actually, just
You want to keep going back, but it does concern me there slightly. You are saying we haven't got the skill set to deliver now one of the key points in the introduction of the strategy. So are we looking at further training of our comms team to pick up on things around environmental marketing and pushing out? Because within point two, with the introduction, we're saying that's one of the most important things of our strategy that we should be putting out. And that slightly concerns me when you say we haven't got the skill set or the experience to then put that information out. There's not enough in the strategy about it, so should it be within a KPI that we build up the training, so that we've got the experience to put that out? And again, going back to the national thing and more the community stuff, because there's loads of information out there, it doesn't take long to take that, grip it into our templates. So it's not a share, because like you said, you lose your trends, but you're putting that information out on part through Weymouth Town Council.
Yeah, I think that's probably just that my mind was stated properly. Sarah and Phoebe are not people that have training in environmental services, and they don't need to because they're communication, so they're about communicating information that comes to them. We have people in green spaces that are trained in that, and when they put on events or things happen within the communities like tumble down planting trees. I know Emmy's been working a lot with regards to having green initiatives and in safe places, we try to advertise that. If you're talking about comms saying, okay, well, it's recycling week this week, or this is what you should do, it then muddies the water. If we're talking about recycling, that's also county council thing. But if you're talking about actually then just getting into initiatives like RSVP, do Bird Watch Week, you know, sharing or copying stuff, or we're doing what the environmental team already did, or the green space team already do, which they say, we've done this in our park, we've made these trees, we've put these trees, we've built these bird houses, we've created this, and we've taken pictures of sharing it and getting people involved. So I think it's just, I'm asking for a bit of clarity of what that looks like, copy and pasting stuff from other people's networks isn't good. That's what we can put in.
I think, you know, the purity of the communication strategy, which is what I think we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I think we might be straying from that a little bit. I take the concerns, but I'm going to default to something that was said earlier in the meeting, which is better than what we've got already, probably. Councillor Burton.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Lisa. So just to pick up on a couple of things that Councillor Hope has said, if I may, Chair.
Was there pertaining to the communication strategy
No, I
and
hope
the
so.
question?
Yeah, I hope so. You rate me, it's fine. It's just around content. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Hope, it's a reference to our original content rather than sharing, copy and pasting. So it's having that information and putting it through our comms team so it resonates with our residents rather than the generic national, the national PR. It's working out how does it translate to our residents in whatever way we see, because we, you know, that information comes through not copyrighted. We can take that information and we can disseminate it through whichever way, which leads into my next comment about these social media. Could we just bring that back on the board, those stats? And I will push up against Councillor Hope a little bit, if I may, and say, yes, our social media is good compared to others, other councils. However, that's sort of like comparing vegetables with a butcher. You know, it's not what it should be for an organisation that has such a large turnover, you know, within the millions. We're not meeting the standard of what social media is, especially when we're competing with all of our local businesses, and we've got really creative content that we've got to compete with, as well as, because it's obviously not within the Weymouth bubble. Lisa mentioned something about using YouTube in a different way. I was interested, and linking into what Councillor Wakeling was saying about those KPIs, you know, I'd like to see something around, you know, yes, we can increase followers, but what is it that's not working at the moment that we can measure to get those followers? And the case can be made, it's variety of content, for example. So I'm interested, when you said, Lisa, about how you use YouTube, whether you could describe how you see that being used in different ways, so I could better understand the content output.
Sarah or Lisa?
I think that was just around having more video content on the platform, rather than just at the moment, it's the live stream meetings, we're not using it for anything else. So it's just about increasing that potential.
Okay. So I'm not sure if it's appropriate, Chair, but I would like to look at those KPIs, and we do need to do something about variety or differing content, because there's a lot of apps out there that do a lot of it for you. But and we need to be in that market. We need to be competing with those or other organisations and those eyes for that. And I'd like to see us be a little bit more savvy with how we're going about it within those structures. I take feedback though, it's not, I don't have an answer.
I haven't given you any yet.
Thank you, Chair.
Obviously, everyone's welcome to their own opinion. I appreciate we might have a large turnover for town councils, but we have a communication team too. So if you compare us to maybe Dorset Council, where they may have 30 people, we just can't compete on that level. So I just think it's a bit of actually what's that looking like. Going back to the point about YouTube there. So like Sarah said, we can do those different videos and try and engage people in those different ways. But what we don't want to do on social media and the rest of it is just be throwing out content all day long, because someone doesn't just want to see streams from certain things. And I know you mentioned app as well. We've bought a new app this year. We've spent the whole comms budget on it to try and get the best app for the council. We can purchase better apps and bigger apps, but they cost money. They're not cheap. They're not easy to do. We literally blew through our whole comms budget on one app, and that's expected to go up, not down. So I just think again, it's about managing these expectations, and we're building this strategy going forward. We feel like a big council, but we're not. We do have a limited budget. We do have a limited team. So when we're talking about all these different outputs and all these different ideas from, advertising, what grants we're giving out, what events we're putting on, for what environmental things that we could or couldn't do, that's quite a lot of posts going out all day. So trying to get all of that into a few social media accounts, a few posts with 2 people and a limited budget is just needs kind of people. It's what we try to reflect in this.
Okay, Councillor Watley, last point and then I'll sum up.
I've got 2, maybe 3. The annual resident survey, was there a paper version and where was it? Or was it all online?
There was an online survey and paper copies were made available.
Where?
Can't remember off the top of my head. We had some at the office. Can't remember.
Yeah, well, it'll come as no surprise to anybody that I keep saying that not everybody is online. I mean, the Park District, 60 to 70% have no access to a computer. So what are we going to do in our communications to catch these people? But finally, there's nothing worse than an out-of-date poster, which happens on the drums. I don't know who's responsible for the drums, changing the content. It's better to have it empty than have something which is advertising something last year. But I mean, we've got plenty of opportunities to promote the town council, even if it's just that. It's better to be up to date than advertising something which happened last year. In fact, downstairs, there's something, the notice board outside this office is advertising a COVID injections for the 29th of January.
We had COVID injections here on 29th of January through the NHS. We rented out the room.
Yeah, but what I mean to say is that's still on there, advertising it. So somebody should be checking this and making sure that what we're advertising, what we're showing is up to date. I'm getting one nod, thank you, Alex.
You're right, mate, okay, I feel you.
And just for the drums, I would hope that most of the drums have been updated pretty well and filled for these the last few months, as far as I'm aware, but if you do have any issues, I encourage councils to come to us.
Oh, they are so much better.
We spend a significant amount of money trying to build the drums.
Yeah.
They are better, certainly. I do walk them, but I haven't been there for a few weeks, but on the survey, councillor Whatley, paper copy, and I know you're very passionate about that. Sarah, could you consider looking at specific points that you would put the survey? So I'm thinking library, cafes,
Doctor's surgeries.
doctor surgery. So can we, you don't need to be in the policy, but can you take it away as an action point to say, when we do the next survey, these will be the places where the survey, paper survey, community, whatever. I mean, Park District Community Centre would be an ideal, because it's a specific to that area. It would be, I'm not sure about the 60-70% people not being online, but,
Yeah,
I think it is a valid point that we need to get to those people if they've got any feedback. I just want to go, I want to keep elongating this meeting. There's something bugging me about what councillor Berman and councillor Hope said, which was,
You're welcome.
because I am a lay person, so I need to understand this before I go for it. So third party content, let's say it's a green event. What you're saying is, we don't have the manpower yet sometimes, and we don't really want to just repost what other people do. But if we're participating in some way to that event, so let's say it's Green Week of Tree, or something to do with trees, we could do a post that says, we've been in our parks this week putting up bird boxes. Is that so we would do something, it just wouldn't be passing somebody's third party content through our channels. Am I understanding that's correct?
Yeah, and that was just the clarity I wanted to get. If we're participating in any way, where even if it's actually Green Week and we've done this, we'll advertise it.
Yes.
But just,
Thank you. I'm clear now. And just to challenge councillor Berman back, because he did ask for some feedback. I don't necessarily think we're competing with all those businesses. I think there's a juxtaposition with councils, because people who look at our website generally are information seeking. It's not a social thing, in my view. I can't say I sit there and go, whereas I would on YouTube or.
What was that noise you made when you do it?
Be quiet. We are information giving, and people should come to us. So as long as we're doing those things correctly, I think,
Two channels there, though.
Yes,
Chair, respectfully.
we have a policy in front of us which we're going to vote on, which says the Finance and Governance Committee agrees to recommend the adoption of the communication strategy to full council. Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Lambert, seconded by Councillor Hutton. All those in favour? 3. All those against? 2, 3. All those abstaining? 1.
After I give those nods, Ken.
Okay, so does that mean it's that to me? Well, I voted for it, so I'm going to stick with my original vote. I think what I would say is defaulting to is better than what we've got. And if you want to bring it back as councillors in the next council, you're perfectly willing permission to do that. So it goes to full council. Thank you. Thank you for staying, Sarah. I know it's important. Thank you for staying. Well done. Right, item 13, business support service plan. Lisa.
hello, so I've got this is a support service plan today, and I recommend the committee approve the service plans set out in Appendix K. The service plan aims to cover our objectives the next 12 months. It looks over finance, civic, democratic, communications and central service, obviously communications strategy we just covered. I've sat with some key KPIs for us, which we've taken from other strategies, and we've built up the service plan in the same format as the resource service plan and green space service plan, to try and operate under a one council format. So we try to emulate that. I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, councillors, any questions? I've got two very minor points. Now, this is, again, this is a bit similar to the point I made to Sarah about emphasis. I don't think there's enough emphasis in your business support plan around the change management function. I know you've been doing a lot of work with the 50 some odd employees we've got, but they're quite precious to us and in the work market. So my view is that you play a role in that, sort of touches on HR, I know, but I just didn't feel that it highlighted the good work that goes on in business support around the sort of counselling, advice, sort of team. I've seen some of it, so that's why it's just feedback, and I feel it needs to be a bit weightier because you do play a vital role in that, and particularly. I suppose I'm looking forward now. I think councils are going to need to change. This council and all councils are going to need to change more in the next 5 years than have changed in the last 5 years. I believe that. And I think your support services will play a role in delivering that. That's my first point. Second point is around income generation, really. And again, because it's a passion of mine, I see you as the laces that bring it all together. So just again, around emphasis around, we generate 22% of our costs through income generation. I wouldn't like that to drop off, and I do see you a bit like the drums where, you know, nobody else wants it. You know, there are several different departments who have to, you know, paint it and put the poster in the bill, make it poster, and someone has to do it. I do see you playing that role of coordination and lacing it all together, and I think in income generation, particularly if income generation new ideas come forward, they're going to need your support in saying, well, can we put a water spa on the seafront or whatever? And I think you need to be in those discussions early on so that we've got the central function, almost like a coordinating support role. That's just my favourite. Okay. We've got some, Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. Two very quick points. Civic engagement, 80% attendance to events by the mayor. I don't agree with that. I don't think it shows effective performance of the council. It's up to that individual. And I think if you've got a younger working mayor, it's going to prevent them from doing the job that they're expected to go to 80% of what they're invited to. I'd rather go to, if I was the mayor, the more ones that meant something to the council or had value rather than attend it to hit a target. So number one, I think civic engagement should be scrapped as a KPI. I don't think it's relevant to the performance of the council.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Councillor Wakely. Next one, digital media engagement. You've just covered that in the last strategy. We don't need the KPI measured twice, in my opinion. It's already been measured and we've come back as a group performance of KPIs to be reviewed. So that one can also be removed from this document. I didn't go down to the finer details to check they were the same, but I don't think it needs to be in two places.
Do you want to comment on those, Lisa?
It is the same KPI because business support covers communications, so I don't want to create another strategy, another KPI because you just end up inundated in KPIs and they're not useful. So if someone wants to refer to what my team is doing as a whole, they come to this document to see where my focus is are. They want to then drill down into communication strategy. They can then go down into that. But I can remove it if it's not an issue. The idea is that it gives you an overview of it, but I'm happy to.
I don't agree. I think it should be in, I mean, it's a standard business practice that to have, you know, a straight line of KPIs. And if they're the same, then if you're in a support function, but people can make their own mind up. The second one, I mean, the first one I'm interested in, which is the mayoral one, because I don't agree with that either, and
And again, that's absolutely fine, that I'm happy to take that feedback on. And the thinking behind it is that the mayor role is something that people choose to do, and it is a key function, and something that's been highly topical this year about the kind of influence they have and they're present in the community. And the only way we can manage that is, instead of saying, well, they're not being invited to events this week, or they haven't missed that one, so we have a KPI, and then they can have those discussions with you, or actually why it's only that they only turn up for 30% of events when we've had so many. But if that's something that councils don't believe is useful to you, then again, it's more about how you engage with the community. The mayor is a key person that does engage the community and does represent the community, does represent the council face to face at charity events and at public events. So, yeah, I think.
I think it's the style. I think looking forward, I think Councillor Hope's point is, whoever the mayor is, there's personality in that, and they would choose to do, particularly somebody who's on working age would choose to do that in a different way. And I think by insisting on a KPI that's got 80% in, you might preclude people from wanting to do that role. I think that's sort of where I am. And I think it is about the major events being mayoral led rather than all events, you know. From my point, but I'll take some other comments. I mean, Councillor Uncle, you've been in there recently, so would you like to comment?
Yes, I mean, obviously, you've got a mayor and a deputy mayor, and I'm not sure quite how many people are writing in these days, but I think when I was mayor, we managed to get to most events, quite small ones, and only a short time. But there are other members of the council who could be substituted if it was somebody in a member's ward, a small community, who just wanted to show some work off or a little bit of putting on. Obviously, the more major events, then the mayor should be, as at all possible there, or certainly the deputy.
Okay. Councillor, are you wanting to propose an amendment to this, to take out that?
I'm going to propose an amendment to take out the mayor, because again, I don't think it should be in there. It doesn't have any impact on the performance of Lisa or their team, which is where, from councillor point of view, where I want to scrutinise the KPIs, performance of our staff and delivery of our service.
Should rely on the mayor, 80%, I get that.
The other one is I do disagree with the comments that were made on the social media. I run KPIs at work, our KPIs set on me. I don't duplicate my team's KPIs who sit around me. They're reviewed as one package together at KPI reviews. I don't think we need them in separate places. You'd have your KPIs and your team's KPIs underneath you, so you track all the KPIs you're already to. Then the next level, can actually track those ones.
We'll disagree on that. I think we probably need to do those amendments separately, because I would vote for one and not the other, so.
I'm going to propose both amendments together, Chair.
Okay. So you've heard the two, removal of the mayoral percentage and the social media KPI from the policy, by Councillor Hope, second by Councillor. All those in favour? 5. All those against? 1. And all abstention. 1. So those two go.
We were less KPI.
You've still got it.
And again, thank you, Lisa, for staying. You don't need to stay for the very exciting.
We've just got to approve the recommending it to.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes, we do, sorry. Got tied up with disagreeing, Councillor Hope, we forgot to do the substantial. So the substantial is that the committee approves the business plan and service plan set out in Appendix K, pending the removal of the 2 KPIs. Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Hope, seconded by Councillor Byrne. All those in favour? Yeah, that was. Thank you for the prompt. Thanks, Sarah and Lisa, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Gets better, doesn't it? Item 14 is the fixed asset register, and I'm going to ask you to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. The next three items are items which members will be used to seeing every year. We need to go through a process of getting them recommended and then briefed it for council. It's a requirement of our accounting regulations that we do this. I think if you just take the asset register, it is a list of the assets that we've got. It's not really for now to go through it. I would expect there to be the working group to be reconvened after the elections, because there could be something within that that affects our services going forwards. But it is a list of our assets, Chair, which we just need to formally pass over to the full council to approve.
Yes, I'm not looking to discuss it. I mean, I think.
Can I propose we take 13, 14, and 15 together?
I don't believe we can, purely because of the they have to be formally done.
On item 14, we can note the minutes reflect the fact that this committee calls for the assets subgroup to be reconvened at the earliest opportunity under the new council, because we have some assets that we haven't managed to sell, that we agreed to sell in 2019, and we still haven't sold them. Like the garage and stuff like that, so it does need to be reconvened via this committee. So the officer recommendation is the committee is asked to recommend. Councillor Hope.
Chair, very quickly, can I just ask that some of these areas, especially the land, that following the adoption, hopefully, of a neighbourhood plan, we make a note on these pieces of land that we've marked as green, designated green open spaces off the bin. It would just be useful to know that going forward, so if we ever look at disposal or anything like that, we can actually say, actually, that has been designated as green open space. So where those decisions will be reflected in the plan, to reflect in this document.
Yes, good point. So the recommendation is that the committee is asked to recommend the asset register, appendix L, for approved full council. Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Hope, seconded by Councillor Watley. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Item 15 is the corporate risk register. Anybody got any comments on the risk register? It hasn't substantially changed.
We considered it back in October.
Yes.
Chair, I wasn't at that meeting, but if there's anything which members would like changing before it goes to full council, then happy to make those.
Councillor Hope.
Jay, we know, not surprised at all that I'm going to mention the IT red, that's remained red, I think, the existence of this council.
Yeah.
And I'm just really, the question is, when are we actually going to take this seriously and address it? And if it's not serious enough to address, should it actually be read?
So I would say all staff are going through essential training now in terms of cyber security. We've got going out to IT tender, which we are asking for the people who submit tenders to be proactive on that side of things. So I would hope when those things get put in place, then we can consider rescoring channels.
I would say as a general comment on a risk register, you can still be read and take it seriously, but it's just, you just cannot get to, it depends on the cost and the rest of it. I know it's a serious issue, but most organisations will be read at the moment, given the amount of hacking that's going on. Councillor Wickton.
I was going to say very similar, but the problem with this particular thing is the risk is going up faster than we can mitigate it. I think most of us will have got several, a phishing email this week pretending to be from one of our number that was indeed fake. The hackers are getting more, that was very low sophisticated, they're getting cleverer and cleverer, and the risk goes up. So I'm happy for it to remain red, because the risk is that high.
I think if you're tendering at the moment, we really need to hone in on that point, because Councillor Hope's point's right, is we've got to satisfy ourselves that we've done every single thing within our fiscal means to lessen the risk. But if it stays red, I don't have a problem with that.
I think it, just picking up on council mates, which is my final point there. It's just that we're seeing new things coming through, so monthly basis of just how they are manipulating things to become cleverer and cleverer. So it's always going to be up there at the moment until we do find some ways of totally mitigating it.
I would say, Dorset Council use this training, on this online training thing, and, which you do, it's called Professor Purple or something, whatever it's called, if you used to do something like that. Yeah, I'm not doing it, but I did get, so, but I got caught out even on one of those, because they sent her a phishing email, which looked like Dorset Council, and at the end of it, they go, we've just got you.
The other thing to share just on that is they're getting covered by putting the generic email addresses now. Companies use finance at HR at.
Yeah.
And when they go to there and say, here's an invoice to the finance team, it's quite easy. It looks right, just,
Okay, so, if there's any other comments, the officer recommendation, the committee is asked to recommend the risk register for approval to full council. Proposed by councillor Wakeling, seconded by councillor Huckle. All those in favour? All those against? And no abstentions. 6-1. Item 16 is the annual review of the council insurance.
So this is a new one, Chair, that we've been requested to have, follow the same process by the external auditors. We will get, a wrong audit certificate if we don't, and they ask us to review the insurance. I suppose the reassurance which I can give you guys is we do, work with our current insurers who are Zurich and our internal auditor, and they confirm that the covers and the limits of indemnity which we have in place is sufficient in their view, and our recommendation is we therefore continue with the same sort of indemnity to the policies.
Any questions? Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just wondering on the hires liability, I presume that's if we hire out equipment or a service, is that correct?
That's a very good point, Councillor Hope, because this is one that I looked up. I think it covers us as well, people who hire our facilities and buildings as well. So if something happened to one of our beach attractions or the upturned boats, then we get covered if we can then get those put back to using it. So it covers that aspect as well. Because when you say hire, there's different hires liability. So if somebody's hiring our land, then we would expect them to have their own hire liability, where this is to do with where people are hiring our assets.
If it's not covered in the hires liability, can we look next year when we renew to look at equipment as well? And I'll tell you why, that I was talking to someone recently who was looking to hire a cherry picker and couldn't find one at all. So I messaged Shane and said, do we hire ours out? Because it's sat in the yard income generation. And he was unsure whether or not we'd be covered by insurance. So again, it could become an income generation for the town council, hiring out equipment like that. If it was covered by we were able to under our insurance. Probably too late now for this year, but if we could look at that in for future years.
I think it's a point well made, Councillor Hope, but it is something which we're looking at. I think there's other considerations around the health and safety regulations of ensuring that people have the adequate training to work from heights to use things like cherry pickers, but it is something which we are looking to see.
Worrying that we're doing cherry pickers and chainsaws, so. Okay. Any other questions on insurance? Fascinating as it is. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Hope, seconded by Councillor Lambert. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Information I was not going to take any questions on, other than I have a question myself. Which is on the future policy, if you can put it up on the screen. you lucky people that we removed the policy on drones from this meeting because we've been droning on. Can we remove it from the forward plan and move it, please, because it's in the wrong. We have a policy on drones.
I think I've updated it on our system.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. And anybody got any final points other than that? I'm going to close the meeting at 9:15.